Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Should You Play, where I show you some spoiler-free gameplay and give you my thoughts after playing new games for a few hours, while also highlighting and checking out at least one of the PlayStation Plus games for each month. In this video I'm playing one of the September 2025 PlayStation Plus games, Stardew Valley, the open-ended farm life simulator that originally released in 2016. As someone who grew up on Harvest Moon games, I've gone out of my way to avoid playing Stardew Valley because I knew without a doubt that it was a game that I was going to sink way too much time into. Games like this have their stressful moments, but they're generally relaxing, and with their repetition in gameplay, it's incredibly easy to keep saying just one more day, so let's just talk about it. Stardew Valley begins with you inheriting your grandfather's rundown farm, and after leaving behind a monotonous office job at the Joja Corporation, you set out to start a new life in the countryside. There isn't one singular narrative, but instead a collection of smaller arcs that you can pursue here. The most central storyline involves deciding between rebuilding the local community center or siding with the Joja Corporation and turning it into a new location for them, but beyond that, the storylines mostly revolve around the townsfolk themselves, each of whom have unique personalities, routines, and personal struggles. You can befriend them, learn about their backstories, and even choose to marry and start a family, but the story is just as much about the life you create as it is about revitalizing the town, and the freedom to pursue whichever path you want is a big part of the game's appeal. Stardew Valley is one of those games that's both incredibly relaxing and surprisingly stressful at the same time. Like Harvest Moon before it, you'll constantly be racing the clock, but the stakes are always low and the routine is oddly soothing. Every day starts at 6 AM and time ticks away quickly as you take care of crops, animals, and errands, and energy management is a big part of this loop, as if you work too hard, you'll get sluggish, and if you push any further than that, you'll collapse and wake up at home with some money missing from your pockets. Progression early on is deliberately slow, you're stuck with limited inventory space, weak tools, and very limited energy, so the first few hours of the game can feel repetitive and grindy. If you're new to the genre, this pace may test your patience, but if you know what you're getting into like I did, the slow build is part of the charm, and it makes the sense of growth feel earned when you finally hit your stride. For some players, that rhythm will be addictive. For others, it may feel exhausting. Personally, I fall somewhere in the middle. I loved the flow of it most of the time, but I can completely understand why it's not for everyone. Where Stardew Valley really shines is in the variety of systems layered on top of the daily routine. You're not limited to just farming. You can mine, forage, fish, raise animals, craft, fight monsters, decorate, and build relationships, all of which feed into each other in interesting ways. There are 5 major skills: farming, mining, foraging, fishing, and combat, and while you can focus on all of them, the game never really forces you to. If you want to focus entirely on crops, you can. If you'd rather fill your land with animals and ignore fishing forever, that's also valid. Animal husbandry adds another rewarding dimension, letting you raise chickens, cows, and other livestock for their products. On the flip side, mining ties into combat, with monsters blocking your progress as you dig deeper for valuable materials. Combat itself is pretty bare bones, but it's serviceable and works well as a break in pace compared to running around your farm. Crafting is another core system, with recipes unlocking through purchases, story beats, and skill progression. Decorating also plays a surprisingly big role, as you can design both your farmhouse interior and the layout of your land however you want, leading to some really creative and personalized farms. Festivals and fairs also mix things up, pulling you away from the grind to do more fun and seasonal events. Whether it's participating in a dance, exploring a maze, or just mingling with the townsfolk at the end of the year, these events are a welcome break from farm life and can reward you with some pretty unique items. Not every system in the game lands perfectly though. The fishing minigame, for example, feels more like an annoyance than a fun diversion, and even with upgrades, I found it more frustrating than rewarding. Taken as a whole though, Stardew Valley's mix of farming, crafting, combat, and social systems make it far richer than it first appears, and the freedom to engage with as much or as little of it as you want is what keeps it engaging long after the basics are mastered. Stardew Valley also includes multiplayer, both through online co-op and 2-player local split screen. The overall structure is the same as single player. You share farmland, money, and resources, but there are some quirks and benefits worth calling out. For starters, time doesn't stop during cutscenes unless both players are in a pause state, which can cause one player to lose a good chunk of their day while the other gets their work done. On the other side, players can get twice as much done during the day, meaning one player can go to the mines while the other takes care of the crops. You can also romance different townsfolk, level up skills at your own pace, and manage your own inventory, health, and energy independently. The trade-off to all of these benefits is that only the host can play the farm offline, which means farmhands are stuck waiting for them to log back in if they want to continue that save file. There are some technical hiccups as well, with rubber banding being the most common one that kept cropping up for me while playing online, and I've heard Nintendo Switch players report other connection issues and even full crashes. To me, co-op feels like the better experience overall though. Sharing the workload makes the game smoother and more fun, and most of the downsides come down to technical issues or any minor inconveniences you may experience. Stardew Valley uses a simple pixel art style, but it's really effective and quite charming. I never really ran into any moments where I couldn't tell what something was supposed to be, and the changing seasons keep things fresh, both visually and mechanically, giving the world a nice sense of rhythm. A small but appreciated touch with the UI is how the inventory bar repositions itself depending on where you are, with it normally sitting at the bottom but shifting to the top if you move downward so it doesn't block your view. The music tracks also fit each season perfectly, with cozy and cheerful tunes that add to the relaxed atmosphere. The songs can get repetitive during longer play sessions, but thankfully you can turn them off entirely if it starts to wear on you. I personally kept them on during my time with the game though. The sound effects generally work too. Footsteps and animal noises can be a bit much at times, but just like the music, those volumes can be adjusted in the settings individually if you feel they're too loud. The game's performance is one of its strongest aspects. Load times are extremely fast, whether you're starting the game up from the main menu or moving between areas of the map, and the game's file size is impressively small for how much it actually contains, with the PS4 version only being a little over 500 megabytes. That said, it's obvious that the game was ported from PC for console players. Menu navigation can feel clunky with joysticks, especially when going through the crafting menu or when you accidentally bring up the mouse pointer, as it never feels quite as smooth as it would be on a computer. Outside of that though, the game's single-player performance is rock solid, and I didn't run into a single technical issue during my playthrough. I hate Stardew Valley, not because it's a bad game, but because I know for a fact that it's going to take up a ridiculous amount of my free time as I continue building my farming community. It takes the Harvest Moon formula and builds on it by expanding the world and creating an ever so slightly more complex storyline, but it still maintains the cozy, relaxed gameplay components of the genre. Fishing is a little more stressful than it needed to be, menu management is a bit clunky on console, and the repetition loop will eventually hit everyone who picks the game up, but the charm, freedom, and sense of growth help round out those rough edges. It's the kind of game that you can lose hours to without realizing, and combined with a variety of in-game systems and the heart that went into its development, it's easy for me to understand how Stardew Valley became one of the most beloved indie games of all time. As always though, this is just my opinion. Whether you've just taken over your grandfather's farm, or you've already become a pillar of the community, let me know in the comments what you think of Stardew Valley. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.